Welcome to the third video in daily stress. If you haven't watched the previous two, I would go do that now because we're going to be going in depth to our primary exercises. When we look at primary exercises, we're really looking at two main things: stability and load. When I say load, it'll be a little bit different than external load. Stability is driven by three main components: points of contact, center of mass, and constraints. When we think about center of mass, we can also think of this as a stance. If I'm standing on 2 feet, that's a narrow stance. That's a very stable position. That's going to allow the athlete to produce a lot of force. That's going to create a lot of stress. Whereas if I were to get super wide, like in a split or a lateral lunge, we're not going to be able to produce as much force, which will reduce the stress. And there's multiple variables of center of mass or stance, however you want to define it, that allows the athlete to actually see progression from a stress standpoint or a reduction of stress. The harder the stance, the less weight we're going to be able to produce, and the more the athlete has to think about the exercise and actually getting it done. We then look at load. So when we think about load, it's more about placement and implementation. So placement is going to be where's the external load placed? Is it anterior, posterior, contralateral, ipsilateral, biloaded, overhead, things like that. That's going to dictate how the muscles respond and what adaptations are we trying to drive. We're going to look at the implementation. So is it a dumbbell? Is it a kettlebell? A barbell? Anything like that. That's going to be it's called degrees of freedom. A dumbbell will have more degrees of freedom than a barbell, because dumbbells you can make adjustments. These are degrees of freedom, being able to adjust where the athlete biases majority of their movements, allow them to have that freedom, whereas a barbell is very strict and doesn't allow for that degree of freedom. Now, there's two main things when we look at primary exercises. We have the macro and micro. And if you haven't watched the video about pillars of progression, I would go do that now because that's where I go in depth with those. But being able to scale the exercises from easiest to hardest within the micro progressions is going to allow you to have a very easy and streamlined effect to see progression of the athlete and ultimately start tracking how much stress they are actually accumulating for their training sessions. Remember, systems drive success, so start building.